to the Giraffe Social Media Podcast. It's what social media managers are talking about. I'm Chloe, and today I'm joined, as always, by Katie and Ellie.
Hi.
Hi.
Coming up on this week's episode, we'll be discussing what content we've been binging in January, influencer marketing mistakes you should avoid, and Instagram's new subscription service. Make sure you stick around to the end of the show where we'll be answering some of your burning DMs. Right, well, girls, we're recording on a Friday this week because the very lucky Katie is actually going to be on annual leave next week. But how are we feeling? TGIF, am I right?
I am very excited that it's Friday. Friday. That is very cringy.
I feel like recording this on a Friday has such a different energy than a Monday.
Yeah. It definitely does. It definitely does. And yeah, hopefully the listeners can feel that and, enjoy the Friday energy with us. I wanted to start this segment though, because over on our Instagram at the end of each month at Giraffe SM, we like to do a roundup of content our team has been loving and binging for that month. So I thought we could do the same over here, just some exclusive content for the listeners this week. I want to know what TV shows, movies, podcasts, whatever, have you guys been loving this month?
Can we include books in there?
Ooh. Of course.
I think it's The Happy Millionaire or The Happy Billionaire, the Stephen Bartlett book.
Mm-hmm. Very cool.
I saw it on Amazon at the beginning of the month, and then my one of my friends recommended it to me, and I am obsessed. Like it's just like changes your mindset on things, and I think that's great. So that is the book I've been loving, and then a complete contrast to that is the new season of Too Hot to Handle has come out on Netflix, and
has it?
That's like my guilty pleasure. We love a little bit of reality trashy TV, so I'm here for it. We love the balance.
That is so. My partner and I love watching Too Hot to Handle, so I can't wait to binge that this weekend. Katie, what about you?
See, I've got an issue where, like, quite often I just tend to watch. I don't really tend to watch stuff like as it's coming out. I tend to watch stuff like a year or two after it was popular for some reason. Other than Witcher season 2, finished that this month. Amazing. Also watched You season 3 because I'd never watched the first 2 seasons before, and Ben kind of wanted to rewatch them, so I was like, okay, sure. And then I don't know, I'm not a huge fan, but I'm not here to dunk on You. But my my 2 top recommendations for this month, The Island with Bear Grylls has been put onto Netflix. The one of the seasons, I know it came out a few years ago, but there's something great about watching people try and survive. At the moment, feels very poignant, feels very relevant. It's like they're hunting for a hog, and I'm like, yeah. And then also my personal favorite is Great Pottery Throwdown. Is on every Sunday. I love it so much. It's just, I kind of turned off Bake Off because it got a bit too mean. This is how soft I am. I'm just like, it's too mean. I want to watch the Happy Pottery program with one of the judges that cries when he loves the pottery that much. And it's the best. It's the chillest time. Amazing.
Ooh. My content recommendations are always TV shows because I only really consume TV shows. I'm not an intellectual like you, Ellie. I don't read books. But since Spider-Man No Way Home came out in December, I watched all 3 seasons of Daredevil and really, really loved that. It's because it's not owned by Disney, it's actually very dark and a little bit not gory, but it is very violent, and I wasn't expecting that as someone who kind of only watches the Disney Marvel content, but absolutely loved that, and I think Daredevil is, up there now as one of my favourite anti-heroes. I've also, the Giraffe team would know, I watched season 4, I think, of Cobra Kai, and I've been preaching it to the team, trying to get everyone really into it. I've been there since season 1, and yeah, really enjoyed that. It's a bit fluffier than Daredevil was. So those are
Fluffier.
my two content recommendations. Yes, not quite as much decapitation, a little bit more just, kicky punchy action.
Punchy action. Oh, I love it.
Really loved that. So that is the exclusive scoop for our listeners on our top content recommendations for January. But if you would like a more well-rounded perspective from the entire Giraffe team, make sure you head over to our Instagram closer to the end of the month at GiraffeSM. Moving on to our main segment of this week's episode, we're going to be discussing some influencer marketing mistakes to avoid. Shout out to our graphic designer Sam, who created a very handy infographic over on the Giraffe social media blog with pretty much all the content that we're going to be discussing today. So if you're more of a reader, make sure you go and check that one out. But guys, in the grand scheme of things, influencer marketing industry is still very young and there are a lot of areas for improvement and development. That being said, 93% of marketers have used influencer marketing and more brands are opting to run their own campaigns in-house. Without the help of an expert agency, however, there are a lot of opportunities for mistakes to arise. That's why we're going to be covering a few of them today so you know what to avoid in your next influencer marketing campaign and make sure it runs nice and smoothly. Katie, I'm going to throw it over to you first as one of our in-house influencer marketing experts. What are some mistakes that we should look to avoid?
I think that the one main thing I'd say is not to be too controlling over it, which seems like, a weird bit of advice to give when you're managing something. But I mean, you've got to remember that the influencer you're going to be hiring or bringing on board for this campaign, they are human, and if you're going to set a deadline, it's got to be realistic but also maybe a bit flexible, because influencers are very busy people. Even if it looks on their feed that they are very chill and don't do a lot, I think that's kind of a little bit of a stereotype. It's they earn their money by doing nothing, which isn't entirely true. But yeah, you just got to kind of remember that they're human, and then as well as when you're kind of talking to them about the content that they're going to produce on your behalf, you got to let them have their creative freedom. Part of the reason for getting an influencer on board is because you want to target their audience, right? Their audience is your audience, it's shared, so they know what their audience likes. And if you try and manufacture that too much, it's going to come across as fake and potentially not be quite as successful, and then it could potentially give you a bad name further down the line, if you're wanting to work with other people in their circle, because they could be oh yeah, no, I worked with this company, they're really bossy, they're really demanding, they wanted me to do X, Y, and Z, and that's not to do with my brand. So yeah, I think that's probably my main bit of advice.
Absolutely. I think when you kind of look to approach a certain kind of influencer, you're mainly doing so either because you follow them already and love their content, or because you found that it some way resonates with your brand and your kind of lifestyle and values. So when you begin to put parameters on their creativity and give them a list of do's and don'ts, it really kind of crushes that creative vision and that creative freedom that the influencer has. And as a consumer, you can definitely tell if you've been following someone for a while because of this type of content that they create. When it suddenly changes, or it's been, really, really strategically posted with a lot of elements that they don't usually include in their content, it becomes very obvious. And even though most influencers should be and do mark their posts with ads so that we know it's sponsored content or that it's a partnership, it becomes even more obvious when when that content differentiates from what they usually post and therefore becomes a little bit inauthentic.
Exactly, yeah.
But I guess, yeah, as someone who's had a little bit of experience working with brands as an influencer, I know that, when a brand reaches out with a 10-page list of things that you have to include or that you can't do or that you need to be careful of, it really does put me off. And, you are probably more likely to turn that brand away or negotiate a bit more or charge extra. So I know that when you're a business owner, you really want to have control over how your brand is being perceived, but I think the less constraints the better, right?
Totally.
Mm-hmm. Well, you don't want any of your influencer marketing to be spammy and, like you already touched on, inauthentic, because it just defeats the whole point of influencer marketing, because you want them to turn to the influencer for offering like true reviews on a product or a service. Whereas if it comes across as sell, this isn't what I actually like, then you've done it all wrong.
Yeah.
So back to the drawing board, basically.
Absolutely. Because I think, having some sort of direction on how the visuals appear is one thing, and sometimes that's okay. You don't want other brands in the photo and you want your product to show up clear, but when you begin messing around with the content of a caption and putting words into an influencer's mouth, I think that's a big no-no. And it's not fraudulent, but it also kind of is. Like, at the very least, you want an honest opinion and an honest review from an influencer that isn't biased because of sponsorship or because of what the brand wants people to think. So you're so right. Like, you can really tell when it is, as you say, spammy or really pushing a hard sell.
No, definitely. And like I was saying about deadlines as well, like, set a deadline so like when you're gonna get it, but then be willing to be flexible with that, because I mean, especially at the moment, like, everyone's health could change at like a minute's notice, or like their situations can change. Like, you've just got to be able to accept that and roll with that. And if someone says, oh, I'm really sorry, because of these reasons I'm not gonna be able to get this post out, like, that's fine. Just negotiate and work out when it's going to come out in the future. And then, just treat them with respect and like humans. You're not just like buying a service, you're paying for a person to do that service,
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something that I have seen. We offer influencer marketing as an agency, so I work with a lot of influencers on behalf of our clients, and especially in the last month or so, with Omicron flying around, I have had a lot of influencers who have had to push back deadlines or haven't been able to post on time because they've become unwell, the festive period, or for other kind of external reasoning. And yeah, you have to remember that even though it is technically a service that they're providing, they are a person, and you need to treat them how you would treat your employee, and with the same compassion or understanding. So yeah, that's why I think the best way to kind of work with deadlines and time constraints is to give them a week instead of giving them a day to post. Like, please post on or before this date, and then it still gives them the freedom depending on when they receive that product. They know that they've got 3 weeks to shoot, edit, upload, etc. So I think that's a really good tip.
Yeah, and then like if it's starting to look like they're not going to meet that deadline and you haven't like heard from them or anything, like, send a gentle little message, be like, hey, how's it going? Like, are you doing okay? What's up? Like, don't just immediately go in like, where's my post that I paid for? Just kind of, get a bit of an explanation first.
Definitely. I think that's why it's so important to be very clear from the beginning with your campaign deliverables and kind of the expectations, because, if it is your first influencer marketing campaign, maybe you are a little unsure of what you want to see and what you want the campaign to look like, and what you want those deliverables to be, and I think especially for a paid partnership, you kind of do need to set those expectations, not only for yourself to make sure that you're protecting yourself and seeing that return on investment, but also for the influencer. I think there is a lot of power that comes with creative freedom, but sometimes when you're given no kind of checklist, it becomes a little bit vague, doesn't it? And you can almost have to expect that you're not going to receive what you want or what you were expecting as a business owner. So I think it's so important to have a few set your deliverables. So whether you want a post and a story, a reel and a few stories, a single post, you feel free to give them a few guidelines. Obviously, you want the product to be in focus. You don't want other brands in the photo. And then, give them a deadline or a timeline. Be strict on it, but obviously, you need to be setting a reasonable timeline, so give them a week instead of a day, as we just mentioned, and also make sure that you are setting the expectations on payment and invoicing, because obviously as a business you want to cover yourself there, and also give the influencer a peace of mind as well.
I mean, jumping off the back of that, I also think setting like KPIs as well for what you kind of expect. Like you're saying, like return on investment. Obviously, you're paying them to promote your products, so you expect, I don't know, certain engagement levels or certain purchases based upon that influencer marketing campaign. And I don't know, obviously you guys deal with influencer marketing more than I've ever done. So I don't know whether the influencers come to you with their kind of package or what they can offer, what their rates are, etc. But it's always important to have that discussion beforehand to kind of, like you said, Chloe, set out the expectations of what they expect from you and what you expect from them. And then, yeah, smooth sailing, hopefully.
Absolutely. And I think if there's one final tip on things you should avoid, it's definitely got to be not using an influencer platform. There's a bit of a double negative there. Avoid not using an influencer platform, but to highlight some of the benefits so you know why you should be using it. They help you find influencers a lot quicker than you would if you were doing manual searches. It shows you the most important metrics such as engagement, audience authenticity, promotional activity, and contact information, all really important things to consider if you are looking for an ROI if you're looking to set those KPIs, as Ellie just said. But you can also, on most platforms, compile a list of influencers into lists and categories and kind of do a cross-platform search to see, if your influencer is on TikTok as well as Instagram. Because, having all this, I guess the biggest thing is you don't have to do your search manually. And that often means kind of rushing into things, not having a deep understanding of those important metrics like reach or engagement. And quite often you end up settling for an influencer who just might not be right for your brand, simply because you kind of have exhaustion, because there are a lot of influencers out there, but obviously only a handful are going to be really, really perfect for your brand. So definitely make sure that you look to set up an influencer platform for your business, or, work with an agency like us who has access to one and will do all the hard work for you. Cool. Well, that kind of turned more into tips that you should be looking for instead of tips you should avoid. It was a nice even mix, right, guys? I think we covered a lot of ground there. But if you're looking to launch your first influencer marketing campaign and you're not quite sure where to start, or you just want to avoid the mistakes that we've just mentioned, you can reach out to Giraffe's social media and we'll always be willing to give you a helping hand. Now it's time to dive into the top social media news story of the week. I totally missed this one, but very cool. Instagram, quite quietly, might I add, launched a new feature available to a limited number of US creators called subscriptions. These selected creators will be able to set a monthly price of their choice and unlock a subscribe button on their profile, which offers their followers benefits such as subscriber stories. So this will be exclusive story content with more interactive stickers for their most engaged followers. It also unlocks subscriber lives, which, as it sounds, is an exclusive live broadcast for your paying followers. You also get subscriber badges. Now that's for your followers. When they subscribe to your account, they'll receive an exclusive badge next to any of their comments or their messages so that they can be easily identified by the creator. And obviously in their DMs, there is now a new section, 3 sections now in Instagram DMs, and one of them will be purely for the subscriber base there as well. Now, as I mentioned, this new feature is only available to a handful of US creators right now, but Instagram has already announced that they plan to expand this service in the future. Katie, you actually brought this one to the podcast table, and I'm so excited about this, so I want to know what you think.
No, me too. It's like I saw it pop up on my because the creators page on Instagram posted it, and if you guys aren't following that, you should be. And I sent it to you guys and I was like, have you seen this? And you're like, no. But no, I think it's really cool option. you know, other platforms are taking on like subscription services. Like, you know, it's been on YouTube for a little while. It's like the backbone of Twitch. Even Twitter's kind of like toyed with the idea of it. I don't know if they're still like trialing it or if it's official, but like you can like tip your favorite tweeters and stuff now. I haven't been tipped yet, so I guess I need to up my Twitter game. But no, I really like this, and I like the fact that I mean, I think it's no surprise that a lot of platforms try and suppress like ways that other people can leave, like reasons for people to leave the platform. So like when people have Patreons in their account, which is like another subscription service, like they kind of suppress that a little bit if you mention it in your captions and that, which, you know, no problem there. Like, of course they're going to do that. But to have it like integrated in, like, I think that's great, especially like if you... And there's so many potentials, but it's like you can do like so much behind the scenes stuff for your business if you wanted to, and just like have it to a select few like favorite or like your customers that are like really really into it, you know. It's like paid transparency.
Totally. I think from a creative perspective as well, like Instagram has been in hot water before from like creators for not creating enough opportunities for them to create kind of like a passive income or revenue from Instagram. Like obviously influencer marketing campaigns are this external arrangement that can't be done through the app as of yet. They were talking about introducing like creator ads for Reels, which I don't think ever really came into fruition. So I think this is really cool and I'm really excited. I'm not sure that I'll subscribe to anyone, well, not from the handful of influencers that are available, but once it goes worldwide, which I hope it does, could be very exciting. But I wanted to share with you guys, this reminds me of, and you're probably not aware because I feel like it's a very Australian niche thing, but there's an Australian influencer called Flex Mummy. And last year, about halfway through 2021, she began charging her followers. I think you could like PayPal her $5 and then she would add you to her close friends list, you know, close friends on Instagram, where you only share stories with a select few people. Once you gained access to this through $5, you'd be added to her close friends list, and she would post a lot of not like naughty exclusive content, but just like just exclusive content through her close friends stories. So this kind of reminds me of that, and Instagram has kind of like made it official in a way. So I'm excited for her to jump onto this once it becomes available, because she's already been doing it for so long. I feel like she kicked this off on Instagram at least.
I mean, I do think it is a good idea and I like the concept. However, I don't think it's going to catch on. I'm obviously, like Katie said, I know YouTube have trialed it, but I don't know. I just feel like it's a bit scammy. That's just my personal opinion. I know that's going to be really unpopular, and I know like, you know, you guys are more in the influencer space than me, but I just don't. Personally, as a consumer myself, I can't imagine, from the people that I follow on Instagram, I don't think there would be anything that they could offer me additionally that I'd be like, oh my gosh, I want to invest my money in that. I don't know. That's just my personal opinion.
No,
don't come for me, please.
I can see where you're coming from. I think we've seen a lot of these, I want to say gamification, but I feel like that's not the right word, but platforms like Patreon that a lot of creators on like YouTube per se have set up so that you can get like early access to their videos. Or the main thing that comes to mind is there's this one creator on YouTube who does like breakdowns of all of the RuPaul's Drag Race episodes as they go live. And if you watch RuPaul's Drag Race, you know, at the end they have this like lip sync for their life, and this creator they film their reaction to the lip sync, and that's exclusively on their Patreon. But I think you're right, Ellie, like that's kind of the only example, apart from like Twitch, which I've recently become familiar with, where you have to pay for this exclusive subscriber content. And I'm with you. I'm not sure that I would ever be kind of enticed into paying for extra content. Like, I'm not that bothered, but I think I would be more likely to do this on a platform like Twitch or YouTube, where it's like this long form, actually valuable content than to just see a few extra Instagram stories. I'm uncertain.
I mean, I saw that this was maybe last year. If you've ever heard of the Ace family on YouTube.
Yes. Yeah.
And they set up their own separate platform that had like exclusive content competitions and stuff. But then they were put under fire because they weren't like uploading on that website, and all these people were paying for this content. So it could come into that. I'm not saying that every influencer would do that, but obviously
but it makes it easier too.
Yeah, exactly. And if they're paying your viewers or subscribers, whatever, are paying extra money for new content, that puts more pressure on the influencers. And also, you've got to keep up and maintain that new and exclusive content, which is, I think, it's quite a difficult thing in the long term to maintain, especially if it continues to grow. But I like the concept. That's the main point. I like the concept, I like the idea. I don't think in actuality it will work.
I think it would be valuable to go back to my Flex Mommy example again. She does a lot of kind of like discourse and really interesting content where she philosophizes things that go on in the world, and she talks a lot about important issues. So I think that kind of extra content and being a part of that community and that discourse, I think she did a social experiment on the different colors of starburst and something like that on her close friends. That sounds interesting. But if I were subscribing to, again, I hate to throw Molly May under the bus, but she just seems to be my go-to influencer at the moment. If I were to subscribe to Molly May and she was just throwing up some new pictures of her shoes and I was paying however much money for that, less interesting.
Because that's money you earn in your 24 hours in a day. Sorry.
So yeah, I think it will work for some influencers and for others not. But I definitely, a lot of people have that fan base that are dedicated enough to pay for whatever they put up on there. So yeah, I think overall I'm really excited about this, and I think it's a really cool feature that Instagram has kind of maybe been first to the mark there. But it's cool. In our latest and greatest segment, we are going to be trying to answer some of your burning DMs sent to us on social media. Guys, our DM today simply reads, I'm springing this on you with no context, but it says, should my business use Instagram Reels or TikTok? So I'm going to set up two bases here. We're going to do a little high school team debate. One can argue for TikTok and one can argue for Instagram Reels. Take it away, ladies.
Okay, I will take Instagram Reels because I know Katie is a TikTok fanatic.
What are you trying to say?
It's not a bad thing. So fighting in my corner. I think that Instagram Reels are incredibly valuable. And obviously last year, I think it was the CEO of Instagram or someone very senior in Instagram, he said that it was turning more into a video content platform. So obviously Reels are so important to boost your engagement on Instagram. So in that respect, that's your way of engaging not only your audience already, as well as reaching other audiences across the platform. And obviously Instagram is a massive platform that's been around for years. So definitely that's one way of reaching a large amount of people in a short period of time, which doesn't take too much effort. Obviously you don't really have to think so much about captions and stuff like that. It's more just about the video content. So that's a quick little snippet from me. Ooh. Over to you, Katie.
Okay, my argument is TikTok is better. No, I'm joking. It definitely depends on your audience, and I can't believe I'm not wholeheartedly defending TikTok here, but I think if you've got a younger audience, TikTok is the way to go. We all know this, and if you're willing to make an authentic, humanized version of your brand, TikTok 100% the way to go. But I know it can get a little bit exhausting trying to keep up with trends and that, so that is something you have to bear in mind. But my summary is TikTok is great, and just listen to the rest of our podcast episodes to piece together why TikTok is great.
Awesome. Well, I mean, to argue both sides, I think if you pick one, you can do the other. You just remove your watermark from whichever app you've just used and then repurpose it onto the next platform. But yeah, I can see the benefits of both sides. I think with Instagram, if you prefer to keep that polished version of your brand, definitely stick with Reels. You kind of can expect the same sort of reach that you do on TikTok. Again, it's shown to a much wider audience than just your following. Whereas TikTok, as Katie mentioned, if you're not afraid to get a bit silly and pull the curtain behind your brand, definitely have to go on there and jump on and see what you can create. I think there's a lot more creative freedom there and a lot more room to show personality. So that's my 2 cents. And thank you to the listener for sending in that question. I hope we answered it well. And good luck on your video creation journey. Well, that's all we've got time for today, guys. Thank you so much for joining me on this week's episode. If you enjoyed the podcast, don't forget to subscribe if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, or give us a follow and a 5-star rating if you're listening on Spotify. Until next time, we've been Giraffe Social Media. You've been amazing. We'll see you next week.